Hi, I'm here to review the Speck Candyshell and the Casemate Pop. Why listen to me? Well, I've used this for about a year, and this for about a month now, so I think I've come up with some things that I haven't seen in other reviews. So let's cover the basics first. They both use two materials, this kind of hard plastic and softer rubber. They both have really big camera cutouts, though obviously my spec is still the one for the iPhone 4. The newer spec has the big camera cutout. I never had any problems with this, but I guess some people must have had, so they made it bigger. They both have pretty much the same cutouts. You can see like that, and they both protect the button. They both protect the volume buttons as well, and have the opening for the slider. And the design at the bottom is a little bit different, but it's basically the same. Oh, and they're about the same thickness. Sometimes it seems like the pop is a little bit thicker, but you almost can't see it. Neither of these cases is going to play nice with docking stations, really. The distance here it's just a bit too far in. However, I have made the pop work with my Apple Hi-Fi, whereas the spec didn't. I might just be lucky though, so I wouldn't bet on it. The Casemate is a lot more flexible than the spec. The spec is actually, every time I pick it up to do this, I'm surprised at how sturdy it is. Whereas this is, I feel like I could break it. When I first saw the pop case online, I thought, hey cool, that's awesome how they made the rubber come out over the hard plastic here. That means that if you put it down on a surface, it should grip. Wrong, it doesn't. Do you see this point here that has the most scratches? That point actually comes out. Don't know if you can see that here, but you can see the reflection there moving. So what happens is if you put it down, it has no grip whatsoever. It has less grip than the spec, and the spec is just shiny plastic here, so you don't expect it to have a whole lot of grip. But this is even worse like this. And the worst part about this is that if you use it, you get a kind of wobbly effect here going on. I should point out that I actually tore off part of the Casemate logo from this case. It was this kind of rubber piece that protruded from the surface a little bit, that was over here. I thought that removing it might help with the wobbling problem, but it really didn't make any difference at all. I feel like this is kind of really an unfortunate design flaw, because if you look at the spec here, there's a logo and it's rubber, but it's not coming out of the surface. So the surface is flat. This case does not wobble, whereas the pop really does wobble. Let's compare the back of the spec here. The spec does have some areas that are more scratched than others, so I suppose it isn't completely flat, but it's so flat that you don't notice it in everyday use. It has maybe a tiny bit of give here, but no wobble really, and when you go to unlock it, it's no problem. In comparison, the Casemate has this problem where you go to unlock in your phone. Because it is hinging on just that one point, it just rotates really easily. Now, of course, this is a very flat surface here, but this does happen from time to time. Maybe I shouldn't have torn off this logo, maybe that provided some extra grip, but I remember having this problem before I did that. Obviously, both of these are one-piece cases, so they both have the same problem: how to get the phone into the case easily, but then also have it be really secure in the case and not fall out again. Speck solves this by having a sort of expandable corners here that would expand to allow the phone in, but then contract again to keep it safe. It works really well, it feels solid. Casemate have solved this by having this be quite flexible, so it can accommodate the phone sliding in and then snap back. However, this is a lot more flexible. It doesn't feel as solid. Okay, so let's test that out with this one first. Okay, there we go. That was quite easy. It's also quite easy to pop it out again. You see here, when you do this, it's actually surprisingly easy. This is too easy for my liking. When you do this, you notice that the only thing that's keeping the phone in is just the edge of that rubber lip here, and that doesn't feel secure enough, I find. It's also quite flexible here, so when you're gripping the sides of the phone, it feels like there's some give there, and it's like the case is not gripping the phone as much as it could. Taking it out again is also quite easy, a bit too easy for my liking. Let's try that with the spec. As you can see, like this opening here is kind of expanding to swallow the phone there and then contracts again. This feels more solid. It could not be gripping the phone more tightly here. And it actually takes quite a lot of strength for me to just even bend that a little bit away. Obviously, because mine is the new iPhone, it doesn't quite fit, but this behaves exactly like my old iPhone 4 did in this case. It is a bit harder to get your phone back out of the Speck. It feels very secure. What you do is you push it down like this, which takes a surprising amount of force, and once you've got the top out, you can just ease out the rest of the phone. It's actually quite easy once you get the hang of it. Obviously, I've had this for a year, so I've done this a lot. And it's just as secure as it was the day I got it. Whereas this has become looser in just the month that I've used it. In both of these cases, using the sleep wake and volume buttons is a pretty good experience. You can hear and feel the click of the hardware button beneath it, so that's pretty good. They both provide quite a bit of protection, so you are going to have to dig in to get to the slider here. There's one thing I've noticed though, is that if you're on loud here and you want to go to silent, the Casemate has no hard plastic in this part here, which means that if you have big hands maybe and you don't want to dig in, you can just kind of push on top of that and it'll go to vibrate. Obviously you can't do that with the Speck, however I never had a problem with it. The buttons here are maybe a tiny bit tougher to press than on the Casemate. I think that's probably because they used a sturdier rubber here than this one. This is quite flexible. Overall though, it's still very responsive. You can still hear the click. Like I said, the Casemate doesn't really hold the phone as tightly as I think it should. However, the feeling of it in your hand is very good because of these grip areas here. These really do help. Especially like sometimes I'm lying on the sofa and I want to balance my phone on my legs. This helps it not slide down. Having said that, both of these cases feel really good in your hand. Next up, I'd like to compare the damage and wear and tear to both of these cases. It's not really fair because this one is a year old, this one is only a month old, but let's do it anyway. The Speck has broken in quite a few places. It's broken here. There's a little break here as well. And one here. However, these don't affect the inside of the case, so your phone is safe. And actually, even though this is broken, it is just as sturdy as this. Actually, it's more sturdy. Which makes sense because this is a wider cutout and they used more flexible material. Also, the rubber has kind of frayed a bit, which makes it look a bit ratty, but it doesn't affect the phone. Which I think for a year's wear is actually pretty good. However, this I'm pretty disappointed with. Now on the Speck, something similar happens here. The glue that binds the rubber to the hard plastic has kind of come loose, so you can see it come off there. However, like I said, it doesn't affect the inside. It doesn't ever bother your phone. Whereas here, you have a problem where you see these hard parts on the inside. This could damage your phone. If you maybe put your phone in with the top first and then put it down, and the side caught one of these edges here, I can see you damaging the side of your phone with this. This is not good. This is where the Casemate really falls down. The other thing I noticed with this is that once the glue has stopped working, the case is no longer, it doesn't behave the same anymore. Now the Speck is broken in plenty of places, but it still behaves the same way to the phone. Whereas this, once the glue has come loose here, this part is a lot more flexible. And remember, this is the part that's keeping your phone inside the case. So if the glue all around were to fail, that's a pretty big problem. So overall, I would definitely recommend the Speck Candyshell over the Casemate Pop. The Speck is sturdier, feels like it protects your phone a lot better. Even though this one is broken here, it actually feels a lot sturdier than this. Now this probably won't break because it's flexible, but that doesn't mean that it provides good protection. So I would definitely recommend this. The only thing I could say negatively about this is that it might benefit from having more grip. Maybe that isn't something for everybody. You might want to slide this out of like tight jeans pockets or something. But I have heard that Speck has come out with the Speck Candyshell Grip, which they previously only had for the iPod Touch, and they now have it for the iPhone. So that is definitely worth looking into. The Casemate I really wanted to like. I think if I had reviewed it after I got it, I would have probably given it a much more positive rating. but now that I've lived with it for a while, I can see its flaws, and I really can't recommend it, mainly for this reason. A case can't just start dissolving within a month of use, especially if that damage results in like a compromised safety for your phone, whereas the Speck is plenty damaged. Like, you can see bits here that are damaged, but the phone is still protected, whereas here, the first thing that goes wrong, your phone is already in danger. So I feel like that's just a really fatal flaw. The other thing, of course, is the way it doesn't balance. It's not flat. Other than that, it is a good case in concept. It's just not, the execution just missed it a bit. So I hope that Casemate polishes this case up a bit. With a few changes, this could be a good case. But as it is, definitely the Speck is much better. This is the Candyshell Grip, in case you're interested. And just to wrap things up, there I am. Thanks very much for watching my video. Give me feedback in the comments, and have a great new year. Bye!